Annulling Our Promise. Chapter 15. 48 days to the wedding. Eric reached over on his nightstand, trying to locate his cell phone with his eyes closed. He finally found it and pulled it to his face. He opened his eyes to see that it was 8:15 a.m. "Danny? Danny?" Eric yelled from the bed. He didn't get any response. Moving slowly as he dragged himself out of bed, he grabbed his pajama pants off the recliner, put them on, and slid on his bedroom shoes. On the way downstairs, he knocked on Danny's door. "Yeah?" Danny called, sounding pitiful. "Get up and come downstairs. I'm making breakfast." "I'll be down there in a minute." "Now, son." "Okay." Eric smiled as he headed to the kitchen. He knew Danny was feeling bad, and it tickled him. He hadn't seen him like that since he was a teenager. Eric was hard on him, and rightfully so, but he was very proud of the man that Danny had become. He took out eggs, turkey bacon, and pancake mix, and placed them on the counter. Eric opened the freezer and pulled out a Ziploc bag with a frozen light greenish concoction. He put a pot on the stove and turned it on high. Danny walked in as Eric turned the burner on and sat at the table. "You good, son?" he said extremely loudly, messing with him. Danny just looked at him. His face said 1,000 words. Eric laughed to himself while mixing up the pancake batter. He pulled the griddle out of the cubby and placed it on the counter. He wiped it off with a napkin, then turned it to 275 degrees. "Put that Ziploc into that boiling water." Danny got up and picked up the Ziploc bag. Before he placed it into the water, he smelled the inside. "Whatever this is, I hope it's for you. This not for me, right?" Danny placed the bag in the water. "It's for me?" "Good," Danny said with relief. "And you. I call this snapback. A couple of sips of this and a good breakfast. You'll feel like $1,000,000, ready to run a marathon." He sprayed the griddle with olive oil, placing the bacon on half the griddle and pouring pancakes on the other half. Danny frowned, thinking that he might have to take some of that after all. He heard his phone ringing, though, and went upstairs to get it. By the time Danny got to the phone, it had already stopped ringing. He'd missed a call from Yolanda. He called her back as he walked back down the steps. Ring, ring. "Hello?" Yolanda answered her phone. "Good morning, baby," Danny said, taking a seat at the table. "Good morning. I had to check on you because you didn't hit me last night. I knew you were with your dad, so I didn't call you when I woke up to use the bathroom. If you thought I was crazy, that call wouldn't have been sweet. I woke up at 3, and I checked my phone to see that you didn't text me before you went to bed. You never even responded to my text when I texted you good night last night," Yolanda was saying. "Not to cut you off, but you're right. I should have let you know when I made it in safe. I was dead wrong, and very inconsiderate of you worrying yourself to death. I'll try my hardest not to let that happen again." Eric looked at Danny and gave him the thumbs up. Then he pointed to the stove, trying to show Danny that the snapback was ready. "Are you still there?" Danny asked Yolanda. "Yes. I'm just a little shocked at your response. I prepared myself for all your excuses. You don't have to worry about any more excuses. No one's perfect. But if I don't check my flaws, how can I get better? I'm trying to go into this marriage proactive, trying to be the husband you can love forever. Hold on, let me pour up this sewage my dad wants me to drink," he said, placing the phone on the table. After Danny poured himself a cup, he picked the phone back up. Eric placed their plates on the table. Then he got 2 cups and the orange juice out of the refrigerator. "Hello?" Danny said to the phone as he sat down. "I'm sorry," Yolanda said. "Sorry for what?" "Just not recognizing your growth and how you're trying to be that kind of husband. I need to step up my wifeness instead of focusing on you, huh? We good, baby. We're going to grow together and make the perfect love color. We'll talk about that later. Me and my dad are having breakfast. Love you." "Love you too. Tell Mr. Eric I said hey. Talk to you later." "Will do. Bye." Danny ended the call. Yolanda said, "Hey, Dad. Tell her I said hey when you talk back to her. I see you learning, son. It takes 2 to tango and 1 to throw up the white flag. Just don't use it too often, or she is going to realize it's game. I got you, Danny said, smashing the bacon. They ate their food as they laughed about last night, until Danny's text alert sounded on his phone. Danny opened the text. Jackie. All is good. Kenya will be there. She said she would pay for her way, but thanks for the offer. We will see you there. Danny. Thanks for your help, and I can't wait for that day to get here. Danny pressed send on the text as he tried not to scream or smile too hard. Is that a nudie text smile? Eric asked. No. Something came through for the wedding. Okay. Eric got up and put the plates in the sink. As he cleaned off the griddle, Danny cleaned off the counter. Danny placed the eggs in the refrigerator. Then, he stared at Eric with his hand on the door. He caught Danny staring at him. Is everything okay, son? Everything is great. I was thinking about these last few weeks. Our talks have been priceless. You can say that again. I've used the company therapist twice, and neither one of those talks have been this fulfilling. I get it. Now it's my time to open up to you about something that has haunted me all these years. I need you to sit down, and don't interrupt me. Here we go again. Eric rolled his eyes as he sat at the table. I know we've never talked about Mom's death. For her to die on my 5th birthday was devastating. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I heard you and Mom's talking loudly. I was outside in the backyard. I looked through the patio door and saw you holding my Spider-Man costume. I ran in the house to you and grabbed the costume from you. I went up to my room and got dressed. When I came downstairs, I asked to see the cake. You told me after you took a shower you were going to get it. I'd frowned and started crying, because usually when you told me that, it didn't happen. You told me, stop crying. We don't do that here. I kept crying until Mom's grabbed her purse and said, I'll be right back with the cake. I said thank you and skipped back outside, going through the party bags. I forgot all about the cake once the guests arrived and started having fun. From the clown to all the gifts on the table, it was the start of a great birthday party. Until I ran into the house to show you the dog the clown made with the balloons. To see you crying, holding Mom's purse, standing with 2 police officers with the door open. I asked what was wrong. You turned to me and fell to your knees and hugged me tightly. I kept asking where Mom was, until you finally told me that she was in a car accident. She would have never got killed by that drunk driver if she wasn't getting my cake. If I had just waited for you to take a shower, she would still be here. Tears started rolling down Danny's cheeks. That's not true. And I'm sorry that you have been living with that pain that you didn't cause, Eric said. I was supposed to pick up the cake after work. The loud noise that you heard when you were in the backyard was your mother was fussing me out for buying the costume instead of picking up the cake. She'd picked up your costume already. I got it mixed up, son. I blame myself. If I had remembered to pick up the cake, your mother and my soulmate would still be here. Knowing that, all these years, I haven't forgiven myself. Then, for that to happen a week before we got married was overwhelming. Eric swallowed. I should have married your mother a long time ago. Me being stuck in my ways, letting what my dad told me about marriage make me hesitant. Those are the 2 biggest regrets I've ever made in my life. If I knew you were feeling this way, thinking that you caused this, I would have been told you about that day. The counselor in Georgia when that happened told me that I would know when it was time to discuss her death with you. He also told me to wait until you got past her death, because telling you early could have you hating me while mourning your mama. I convinced myself never to tell you. I never wanted that day to come between us. I hope me keeping that from you doesn't make you hate me. I hope you can forgive me. Eric's eyes got glassy. I could never hate you, Dad. I love you. I love you too, son. Eric walked over to Danny. and they hugged each other as they had that day. They both cried during the embrace. The tears weren't sad tears, but tears of joy, tears of release, tears of closure. Annulling Our Promise. Chapter 16. 14 days to the wedding. Danny and Brandon were looking at the numbers on the elevator as it went up, stopping on the penthouse floor. They got off the elevator holding 2 bags apiece. Danny put his bag out of his right hand onto the floor by the door of the hotel room. He got the key card out of his pocket to open the door. Brandon turned the knob and walked into the penthouse. When you told me you had a suite at the Dominic, I would have never thought it would look like this. This is bananas. I'm about to IG this to death, Brandon said as he took the bags of liquor to the kitchen. Danny followed him to the kitchen with his 2 bags. This view is ridiculous. I feel like Ghost off Power. Wait until the strippers see what you are working with. How much did this run you? Nothing. My dad booked it for me. When he found out I wasn't having a bachelor party, he started making some phone calls. Then, the hotel called me and asked me which 2 days that I wanted to reserve. It worked out that the same week Yolanda is in Cancun, they had an available penthouse. That's what's up. I'm glad you didn't listen to me and do it at the Boom Boom Room. Danny grinned as he placed the empty bags in the trash. He had known Brandon all his life. Brandon was Bruce's oldest child. When Eric and Danielle would bring him from Georgia to New York, he would play with Brandon. That was every summer until they moved back up here. Usually, when Danny got in trouble, Brandon wasn't too far away. Yolanda would catch a jet back if she knew Brandon was helping with his bachelor party. Come on, B. I need to make one more run, Danny said. It's 2 beds on opposite side of the suite. One gotta be mine. I hear you. You hear me, but you don't feel me. Danny had a little smirk on his face as they walked to the elevator. Yolanda and Sherma were sitting in the spa chairs, tilted back, with apricot masks on their face and cucumbers on their eyes. They were enjoying some of the amenities at Breathless Riviera Cancun Resort and Spa. Their friends Alicia and Destiny were having a late lunch with a couple guys they'd met last night. The waitress came back into the spa with their drinks. She set down the glasses, and then she left. One more drink and I'm going to need a nap before we go out. These drinks are stronger than they were last night, Yolanda said as she took another sip from the straw. It ain't even that strong. You've just been out the loop. I remember when we went to Charleston and we got super drunk. Now, those drinks were too strong, Sherma said. No, those drinks weren't this strong. We got super drunk because I let Destiny talk us into hitting that weed bong, hookah, whatever you want to call that. That's why we got that drunk. I learned after that night not to follow her on anything. I love all my girls, but Destiny got some stuff with her. Yeah, but you gotta take the good with the bad with her. I love that she books the best affordable trip ever, and she knows how to have fun. Plus, she's the best when you need to snap out of a broken heart. Lord knows. Amen. You can say that again. I cried on her shoulders many a nights. You and me both. They laughed, thinking about how many times Destiny had saved them. My girls, Yolanda thought to herself. She and Sherma's grandma lived in the 40 projects. They'd known each other for so long that people might think they were cousins. They met Alicia and Destiny at IS-8 when they were in junior high. They had been tight ever since. They were all so different, and yet their bond was more familial than most families. Destiny and Alicia were very outgoing, while Yolanda and Sherma were more reserved. Destiny and Alicia walked into the spa. Y'all going to sit here all day with that butter on y'all face? Where the facial lady at? Excuse me? Excuse me, Destiny said, making a scene trying to get the lady's attention. There she goes, with that boogie down etiquette, Yolanda said with her best Rosie Perez voice. Sherma and Alicia laughed. Whatever. Destiny rolled her eyes. Yolanda always got on Destiny because she moved to Queens from the Bronx when she was 12. The esthetician came back into the room and started cleaning up the ladies' faces. Destiny looked at Yolanda with her eyebrow raised as if to let her know, I made that happen. Then she and Alicia left again. After they were all cleaned up, Sherma and Yolanda walked to the outside pool area with their drinks. They didn't see the other girls out there, so they took their robes off and sat in the pool chairs in their bathing suits. "Call them and see where they're at," Yolanda said to Sherma. Sherma found her phone, but put it down after a moment. "I called, but she sent it to voicemail on the first ring." "That's cool. She'll hit you back." Brr, brr. Sherma's cell phone vibrated. She got a text back from Destiny. She read the text aloud so Yolanda could hear. Destiny: "Pull your salsa dress out your bag, and if you don't have one, buy one. I've bought some salsa lessons off Groupon, and it's going down. I knew it was something." "Did you text her back?" Yolanda asked. "I'm doing it now." Sherma: 10-4. Captain. Sherma showed Yolanda what she texted back. They both smiled, because they knew that was going to get under Destiny's skin. She immediately sent a middle finger emoji back. They smiled, taking sips of their drinks. Sherma waved to the waitress and signaled for 2 more. Annulling our promise. Chapter 17. Later that night, Yolanda and Sherma walked in their hotel room with a handful of bags. They went to buy a dress to go dancing in, but they ended up buying everything that wasn't nailed down. Yolanda emptied all her bags onto her bed. She looked over all the purchases. "Do you ever have buyer's remorse?" Yolanda asked Sherma. "Not at all. You probably should ask if my credit card company has remorse for upping my credit limit." "You too much." They took showers, then started trying on all the different dresses. They knew they'd overdid it when they couldn't figure out if they tried them all on or if they'd skipped a few. After 45 minutes, they both stood in separate mirrors while putting their makeup on. Yolanda let the lady at one of the shops pick out the dress she had on. The dress was red with a high-low ruffle-style cut. The top and sleeves were lacy, and the bottom of the dress hugged every curve God gave her. Sherma had on a canary yellow dress, sleeveless, with short hand sleeves that matched the dress. They were running behind. Destiny told them to be in the lobby of the hotel at 8 p.m., sharp. When they finished fixing up, they grabbed their purses and headed to the elevator. Once the elevator opened at the lobby, they got off and walked to the lobby. They didn't see Destiny or Alicia anywhere. Sherma pulled out her phone and called Destiny. Destiny didn't answer, sending the call to voicemail. "I'm getting tired of her not answering my calls." Before Sherma could put her phone back in her purse, someone tapped her on her shoulder. When she turned around, she jumped as if she was startled. The noise she made as she jumped made Yolanda turn around. There stood Destiny and Alicia in salsa competition dresses. They even had high updo wigs that matched their outfits. Destiny's dress was lime green, and Alicia's was aqua blue. "Wow, y'all went all out. And words can't describe how far out I'm talking about," Yolanda said. "You know my motto? When you're in Rome, do what the Romans do. I even got us a limo for the night, let's make it count," Destiny said. And then she started walking outside to the limo. Alicia started walking behind her until she noticed that Yolanda and Sherma haven't budged. "Are y'all in or out?" Alicia asked. They looked at each other then before saying, "We're in." Alicia turned around quickly, and her dress flared out like an umbrella. She worked that dress to the limo. "It's something funny going on, I can feel it," Yolanda said to Sherma. "Just pray and come on, bride-to-be." Yolanda cut her eyes at Sherma as they walked to the limo. The limo had 3 ice buckets with 2 bottles of wine in each. Destiny opened a bottle of Moscato, passing it to the girls. Once she'd fixed her drink, she made a toast. "To my girl, Yolanda. I love you and I'm so proud of you as you jumped the broom with Danny. I knew that we would all have to come to this place in life where we would become someone's wife. For you to be the first, it could only be by God's design or his sense of humor. Nah, I'm just playing. But for real, Danny couldn't have picked a better life mate than you. I love you, girl, and wish that you get everything your heart desires. Cheers, amen, and turn up," Destiny said. They all said, Amen, as they tapped wine glasses. They drank and poured more drinks until the limo stopped. They downed their glasses, and they got out of the limo. The chauffeur held their hands as they stepped onto the sidewalk. Destiny walked to the instructor once they were inside. They talked for a second, and then he addressed the group. Hello, my name is Ramon, and I will be your instructor for the night. I will start out by showing you a few moves as a group, then I will lead you with a basic routine, one at a time. In the punch bowl is sangria, so help yourself, Ramon said. Ramon started showing them how to use their hips as he counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The girls watched as they fixed another glass of wine. Yolanda watched his every move. Then they all followed him as he taught them as a group. He noticed Yolanda was getting it a little faster than the other girls. After 30 minutes or so, he went into the back and brought back a female instructor. For no extra charge, I'm going to have my dance partner, Gloria, help the bride as I help the rest of you. Therefore, when I get to you, he pointed at Yolanda, you will be ready for a more advanced routine. See? Ramon said. He started dancing with Destiny as the others watched. Gloria helped Yolanda with her hip movement and her spins. Danny was standing in the corner of the penthouse, looking out the window/wall. Most of the walls were glass, from the floor to the ceiling. The movement of the car lights was hypnotizing. As his bachelor party carried on, he found himself stuck. Looking out across the cityscape, he thought about how his life will never be the same in 2 weeks. It's definitely happening. Danny, Brandon said as he tapped the window in front of him. Danny hadn't even realized he was there until Brandon tapped the glass. Everything snapped into focus. He had been hearing the noise of the music, but wasn't understanding the words. In the background, Jim Jones' Ballin' was playing. He turned to face Brandon. The strippers are asking for you. They want to thank you and give you a private dance in the bedroom. I'm good on the dance, but I will talk to them. There you go, always being picky. I got 2 more waves of strippers coming through. I got the best for last. She doesn't dance with other dancers. She's the showstopper. True story. You got more coming? Danny asked as he made his way over to the strippers. Brandon didn't say anything. He raised his hands in the air, full of singles and a devilish smile. Danny thanked the strippers for coming out and politely turned down the private dance. They went back in the other bedroom to change clothes. He walked in the kitchen area, only to run into Thomas. When you get here? Danny asked Thomas as he gave him dap. A couple of minutes before the stripper wrapped it up. When they started raking up the money off the floor, I stepped in the bathroom to call my wife back. I hope she stops texting me, Thomas said. Good luck. What the Danny started to say as he caught a glimpse of the 3 new strippers Brandon was leading into the bedroom to change. Damn. Is it me or are they triplets? Thomas said, eyes wide open. I don't know. B didn't tell me anything about this wave of strippers. He told me about the showstopper, that's it. Hold up. You're having waves of strippers and there's a showstopper coming? Yes. And I didn't want any of this. This is B and my dad's idea. I wanted to go shopping for the house and get some drinks at a bar or something. This is a lot. You damn right it's a lot. This is people loving you a lot. Snap out of it and enjoy it a lot. Don't rush to be a family man. Take it from a married man. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't trade my family for anything in the world, but if I knew I could have waited a few more years to have what I have, without a doubt, I would have waited. On that note, let's get more drinks and use these singles. Thomas pulled out a new handful of singles from the bank. As Danny poured the drinks, he smiled, knowing Thomas was right. He was a little uptight because he told Yolanda that he didn't want any strippers, only to have all this now. He hadn't lied, but he still felt a little guilty. Danny handed Thomas his drink as Brandon walked over to them. The dancers want you to sit in the seat in the main room. I told you. You know what chair I need to get in? Danny said, downing his drink. Thomas and Brandon grinned at each other, knowingly. It was about to go down. "That's my Dan. NYC, baby. Whose world is it?" Brandon shouted. "The world is mine," Danny shouted back as he followed Brandon. After Danny sat, Brandon took out a blindfold and got to work. He couldn't see a thing. The room started to erupt with whistles and claps. Danny's heart was beating so fast, and he tried his hardest to squint through the blindfold somehow. He felt the girls circling him, felt their hands reach out to touch him. He followed them with his head, but still couldn't see anything. They all stopped, and they pulled his shirt and tank top off. Then they tugged the blindfold off. One woman had on a black dominatrix skirt, boots, gloves, mask, and a whip in her hand. He could tell she had nothing on under the skirt. The other two had on leopard skin boots, belts, collars, and lacy gloves. They might as well have been naked. "I'm Bast, the cat goddess. This is Katina and Cotillia. Enjoy the show and tip big." The dancer in black all but purred. She whipped one of the dancers on the back. The dancer dropped to her knees and crawled over to Danny. She was rubbing her head on his inner leg, making them open even wider. Then Bast whipped the other one, who dropped and did the same. They moaned as they seductively rubbed their body on his, just like cats. Bast walked behind Danny, placing her whip on his chest. She pulled the whip slowly to his shoulder, and the girls followed the whip. They slithered up his body until they both sat on each knee, one on each side. Finally, she lowered the whip to his crouch. They purred as they fondled the whip on Danny's lap with their hands. A shower of singles started falling from everywhere. It was raining money, literally. Danny leaned his head back and whispered to Bast, "I'm good. Let them work the room." She smacked her own hand with the whip, and they stopped. The girls followed Bast, doing a routine of the floor that started from a split stance. Danny got up and grabbed his shirts. As he pulled them on, he watched the three get their money. Brandon threw what must have been 100 or more singles in the air, before walking over to Danny. "Oh yeah, they are triplets, by the way. I know when their father found out he was having 3 girls, he probably died. And if he didn't then, he damn sure would now, if he's seen this. Tomorrow, I'm taking my daughter out to lunch. You heard?" Brandon said as they watched the performance. Ramon went in the back room to take a break after finishing up with the other girls. Gloria had already finished up with Yolanda 30 minutes ago. Yolanda had watched Ramon instructing Sharima, since she was the last one he danced with. She couldn't wait for her turn, moving her hips and counting the step as she watched. Ramon returned to the room in all black, a red bandana tied around his neck, and a black sombrero on his head. The girls got up from their chairs as Ramon walked to Yolanda. He reached out his hand, and she grabbed it. She stood up, and he spun her into him. He held the lower part of her back as he looked into her eyes. He spun her back out, still holding her hand. He threw the sombrero towards the girls. When they started dancing, the other girls watched them with smiles on their faces. Ramon looked like something out of a girl toy magazine, with perfect hair, dark eyes, and rugged yet trimmed facial hair, giving him some kind of mystique. Then there was his body, chiseled out of stone. The girls couldn't tell in his first outfit, but he let it all out in this one. His pants were so tight around the thighs, they could see the definition in his legs. The bottom of the pants were loose and flared out as he danced. Yolanda looked amazing doing the routine with him. The girls every now and then would clap, showing their appreciation. They did 4 dance routines. Gloria had clearly been a great teacher for Yolanda. "Let me take a water break. I will be right back," Ramon said as he untied the bandana around his neck. He placed the bandana around Yolanda's neck, and then he walked off. "Is it just me, or is he flirting with you hard?" Destiny said with her eyebrow raised. "Whatever. He did the same thing when he was dancing with y'all," Yolanda said as she walked to the table with the punch bowl. She started fixing a drink, trying to not look back at the girls. Taking a sip of the drink, she thought about her face pressed to his hairy chest. She couldn't stand hairy men, but his hair had been soft and released the fragrance of his cologne. As she stood there refusing to turn to face the girls, she felt Ramon press his body against her from behind. He reached around her and took her glass out of her hand. He put the glass down on the table, then turned her towards him. He only had on a G-string and his dance shoes. She tried to pull away from him, but with little force. Behind him, the grinning girls already had their money in their hands, ready for the show, even Sherma. "Follow me." Armand walked backward, holding her hand. The lights dimmed as she followed him to the middle of the dance floor. He grabbed her by the waist and started dirty dancing. She blushed and was so embarrassed that she couldn't enjoy herself. The girls surrounded them, throwing money and putting it in his underwear. Gloria came out in her own G-string and dance shoes. Gloria danced behind Yolanda. They sandwiched her, to the point that she either had to enjoy it or stop it altogether. She could no longer back up with Gloria behind her. "Relax. This is your night. Have fun and let go," Gloria whispered in Yolanda's ear. And then she kissed the back of Yolanda's neck. That kiss had sent chills down her spine. She closed her eyes as she moved to the music. The other girls smiled so hard, knowing that Miss Congeniality had finally left the building. After 2 songs worth of being sandwiched by Gloria and Ramon, they danced with everyone in the room. The party finally got turned up, and Yolanda was in rare form. Brandon walked back into the room from walking the triplets to the elevator. Danny noticed only then that he only really knew 4 guys that were present, out of 40 or so. Brandon, Thomas, Corey, and Reggie from work. Anyone else wouldn't be able to tell that Reggie didn't know anyone at the party but Danny. Everyone patted him on the back as Danny walked through, and he overheard a couple of guys say that this was the best $20 they'd ever spent. Danny thought to himself, only Brandon would be charging people at my bachelor party. "Yo, 30 minutes till the showstopper gets here," Brandon called. "You loving this, ain't you?" Danny asked Brandon. "You already know. Plus, to know that you're about to be locked down, I'm trying to send you out with a bang. Even if we could stop now, the night has already been epic. I've been listening to the crowd, and they are loving it. I heard them too, and they said they paid 20 beans to get in here. Not everybody paid 20, just the ones I like. Most of them paid 40 or 50. These strippers ain't free, and those bottles don't grow on trees. I love you, but I ain't holding like that. Just don't charge the people I invited. If you did, give them their money back. I should have, seeing how much money they're throwing. Whatever. If you come up short, I'll cover the difference. No dice. I will make it be enough. You just have fun." Brandon gave him dap and walked off, making a round of the room and giving people singles for larger bills. Danny went to the kitchen to find Corey and Thomas fixing drinks. Corey, a.k.a. Cool, a man of few words. "What up, Cool?" Danny said to Corey. "Chillin'? You enjoying yourself?" "Most definitely." Corey nodded his head up and walked into the main room. Thomas and Danny smiled to each other as they watched him walk away. "He hasn't changed. I remember when your dad took us to IS-8 to play in that basketball tournament. I thought Corey wasn't talking to me on the bench because I'm white, but that's just him," Thomas said. "Now and then he might string a few words together. He might be quiet, but he always comes when you call him. He's very loyal." "I know that's right." Brandon turned the music down then, and he tapped his glass with a knife. "Everyone come in here." They all walked into the main room. "The grand finale is in the building. Put your phones up. Absolutely no pictures or recording. Get your money ready. It's about to go down," Brandon said, turning the music back up. Brandon left, going into the hallway. 5 minutes later, he walked in the room. Behind him followed a 6'5", black as tar bouncer/bodyguard, and a pretty brown-skinned chick. She had a chinchilla fur jacket and the fattest butt. Behind her was the showstopper, who needed no introduction. She was breathtaking. As she walked, her hair seemed to blow in the air, even though there weren't any fans blowing. She had a radiance coming from her. Every step she took in her 3/4 fur coat was full of confidence. She went into the bedroom to change, and the bouncer posted outside her door. The other woman turned the music down and addressed the room. The showstopper will be out in 10 minutes. If anyone disrespects her, you will have a problem with Killer, her bodyguard. I'm Fancy, her manager. I will be passing out my card for booking. Enjoy the show, Fancy said, turning to join her dancer in the bedroom. What is she? Thomas asked. A stripper, Danny said, looking at him as if he was crazy. No, I'm talking about her ethnicity. Is she black, mixed, Asian, alien, or an angel? I don't know, but she looks a little exotic. She got that Kim Kardashian tan or complexion, but thick like a sister. If her hair is hers, she might be mixed or have good genes. No matter her race, she's gorgeous. You can say that again. Fancy walked out of the room without her jacket, looking fine. She handed Brandon a CD, and he placed it into the player. When the music started playing, the showstopper walked into the main room. She had on a two-piece white G-string outfit and super tall high heels. More clothes than the other dancers had had, but way more beautiful. She started in the middle of the floor, blowing kisses at the room. She lifted her legs straight up into the air as if she was a ballerina, held it for a second. Then she dropped into a split, and the room went crazy. Money flew from everywhere. Song after song, she was raking it in. She still hadn't taken off her top, and yet no one had even complained. Danny watched her as if he were hypnotized until Brandon and Fancy pulled him to the side. Here's a $100 bill, Fancy said, placing it into his hand. When she puts her legs in the air laying on her back, wait for her to spread her legs wide. I need you to put the 100 on her hot box with your teeth, then step back. Can you do that? Danny looked at Brandon, and his eyes said, Say yeah. He looked back to Fancy and nodded. He went back to watching the showstopper's every move. She moved so seductively, and Danny moved to the music as if he were dancing with her. She rolled onto her back, then she raised her legs to her head. She was holding her lower back so her butt would be off the floor. As she opened her legs into a split, Danny got on his knees and placed the 100 between his teeth. He placed the bill squarely down as instructed. He stood up, and she winked at him as the 100 flew off her crotch. Somehow she'd blown it with her hotbox. The 100 flipped through the air in slow motion. The room and Danny couldn't believe what they'd seen. One guy flipped a handful of $20 bills towards her. Danny went into the kitchen to get a bottle of water. He'd seen enough. He grabbed a water out of the refrigerator, then closed the door, only to be startled by Corey standing right next to him. You trying to give me a heart attack? He grumbled at Corey. No, I want to know if she's tricking. And if she is, how much? I never paid for sex, but I never saw anyone blow money with their coochie. I gotta have that. Even if my girl finds out, she gotta understand, or she needs to step up her game. I'll ask Brandon for you. Good looking. Corey walked back in the main room. Danny cracked the bottle of water and turned it up. He was smiling while drinking the water, thinking about what Corey had said. If Corey knew like I knew, he would be asking about anyone named the showstopper. Plus, seeing all the tricks she displayed during her routine. I wish I would try to get some of that, Danny thought to himself. He finished the water and tossed the bottle in the trash. Danny started picking up beer bottles and pouring the leftover beer into the sink. Brandon walked into the kitchen. You good? Brandon asked. Yeah, I'm straight. Just waiting for this to be over so I can get some rest. I'm burned out on the low. He picked up the rest of the bottles and trash. I feel you. Today has been a long day. Stop cleaning up. I got the cleanup crew coming soon as the last dancers leave. Trust me, I got everything. You need to enjoy your night, which has been epic thus far. I can't. If I stop moving, I'm going to sleep wherever I stand. I've been them before. Do you know if she's tricking? I don't know, but I can ask. You always switching up on me, but I like this switch up. Oh? Oh no, not for me, for cool. He asked me, so I'm asking you. Whatever, I don't judge. Everyone is entitled to wild out for the night. Just make sure it's a 3 for 1. What's that? 3 condoms for 1 thought, all on at the same damn time. Extra protection. You heard? Brandon walked out the kitchen. Danny stayed in the kitchen for another 20 minutes cleaning up. He heard the music turn low, and Fancy started talking. He walked back into the main room. Danny caught the end of what she was saying. Something about taking a break, and then she turned the music back up. The showstopper had already gone into the other room. The fellas were still talking about how she blew that money up. He started cleaning up in the main room. Thomas was so drunk he was sitting on the floor with his back to the wall. He was mumbling to himself, but Danny couldn't make out what Thomas was saying with the music playing. I'm going to drag him tomorrow. He knows he's a light drinker, Danny thought, shaking his head exasperatedly. The showstopper had changed clothes. She had on black boots and a G-string, black lipstick and a lacy see-through negligee. Fancy stood behind her, holding a mesh bag full of sex toys and accessories. The showstopper walked over to Danny and grabbed his hand, leading him to the bedroom. He looked back, and Brandon had the biggest smile on his face. She opened the door and pushed him into the room. She took the bag from Fancy, and then she closed and locked the door. Annulling Our Promise. Chapter 18. I'm not interested in sleeping with you, Danny said before she could speak. Relax, I know. But they don't know, the showstopper said, and then she put her bag on the nightstand. Huh? Everyone out there wondering what we're doing in here. The tips will get bigger and the offers will come. Sexual offers, that is. That's smart. Real smart. Yeah, I might be a dancer, but I'm no dummy. Now, you need to go in the bathroom and strip. Come back out here, just a towel around your waist. Usually I charge $1,000 for sex, $500 for a hand job, and $250 for a massage. I'm going to give you a massage for free. Your party paid for it with their tips. I don't want a massage. I'm good, thank you. I didn't ask you. Danny found himself walking to the bathroom with a confused look on his face. He stopped at the door of the bathroom and looked back at her. Her back was turned to him as she looked out the window. He went in the bathroom, took off all his clothes, grabbed a towel and wrapped it around his waist. He took his wallet and cell phone out of his pocket, then placed his pants on the sink. Danny walked back in the room to slow music and 3 candles lit on both nightstands. She was sitting on her knees on the bed. She was no longer wearing her heels or her negligee. All she had on was her black thong. He placed the items out his hand in the drawer of the nightstand, and she smacked the bed. Danny sat on the edge of the bed like a scared virgin. She came up behind him and started massaging his shoulders. Her hand had him melting. They were tough squeezes with a pinpoint release of tension. She laid him down on his stomach, then she sat on his butt as she massaged Danny. When is the wedding date? She asked while massaging his lower back. In 2 weeks, Danny moaned from the massage. That's good. I hate it when the bachelors have their party the night before the wedding. It's just tacky, if you ask me. Uh-huh, he mumbled. She massaged him with her knuckles, elbows, and thighs. She closed her legs to squeeze his hip as she sat on Danny's butt. He could feel her warmth through the towel. Danny was almost tempted to roll over a few times. It felt so good that he fell asleep with her massaging him. Yolanda laid in her bed, scrolling through her phone. Looking at a picture of her and Danny, she smiled to herself. Sherma walking into the room. I thought you would have been asleep. I guess you wasn't as drunk as you say you were, Sherma said as she put her pocketbook on the sofa. Well, I guess not. I left before I indulged more than I wanted to. If I wasn't in love with Danny and about to get married, I would have stayed. You don't have to explain. If I was in your shoes, I probably wouldn't have even come out here. And if I did, it definitely would have been with Destiny. Wow. Destiny must have shown out when I left. Showed out ain't the word. I can't tell you what she did, but I can say this. She wanted us to watch. That girl is a mess. Trust and believe. That's funny. I'm glad I left. Do you think Danny's up? We're an hour behind, so it's 3:15 there. I don't know. It won't hurt to text him, but I wouldn't call. You right. I hope he texts me back. I want to hear his voice. Yolanda. I love you, my king. She sent him a text and waited for a response. 5, 10, 15 minutes later, she gave up waiting. She plugged in her cell phone and went to bed. Annulling our promise. Chapter 19. Baby, wake up and walk me out. Wake up, a female's voice said to Eric, trying to wake him up. She pulled the covers off him, and he jumped up. He shot her the evil eye, but she didn't mind the least bit. She found her bra between the sheet and covers once she pulled them back. There you go, she said, as she picked up her bra and put in her purse. Why must we do this every time, Simone? Eric asked, half asleep. Yes. You are going to get up and walk me to the door like a gentleman. My mama said, if a man can lay with you, he should have the decency to respect you. Chivalry is only dead if you don't demand it to live in people. Simone raised her eyebrow, looking at him. I'm getting up, so you can shut up. It's too early. I just don't understand why. 'Cause you can lock the door behind yourself. Time has changed from when your mama's been out here. You wish I would let myself out. Hurry up. I'll be upstairs, and don't you talk about my mama. Simone walked upstairs with an attitude. Eric sat up on the edge of the bed, stretching his neck. He slipped on his house shoes, then headed upstairs. When he got to the living room, Simone was standing by the door with her arms folded. Eric opened the door and hugged her. She kissed him on the cheek and walked to her car. He watched her get in the car before he closed and locked the door. Eric walked back into the kitchen and grabbed a new box of chocolate Entenmann's donuts off the top of the refrigerator. The doorbell rang as he was halfway back up the stairs. He headed up again, thinking to himself, what did this girl leave now? At this point, he had a whole shoebox of things she'd left over at his place. He opened the door to discover it was his neighbor Bridget. Eric tried to stay behind the door, as he was only in his underwear still. Sorry to bother you, but have you heard from Danny since his party last night? Bridget asked. No, but should I have? I don't know. It's just that Thomas's wife called me early this morning looking for him. He didn't come home from the party, and he hasn't been answering his phone. Can you please call Danny? My phone is downstairs, but I will call him. Let me put some clothes on. Then you can come in while I call. Eric left the door open and headed to the boom boom room. Before he made through the kitchen, Bridget had already walked in. He knew he should have closed the door. Eric felt her eyes from behind, burning a hole in his boxer briefs as he tried to hurry up to the stairs. I like what you've done to the place, she yelled after him from the living room. He placed the box of donuts, still in hand, on the bed, then put on a sweatsuit and grabbed his phone. He dialed Danny's number as he walked back to the living room. Danny heard his phone going off in the nightstand drawer. He was wrapped up in the covers that he fell asleep on. He rolled out of the covers as he opened the drawer, and, to his surprise, he was naked. He pulled the phone out, answering when he saw that it was his dad. Hello? Hello, son. Is Thomas there with you? I don't know. I knocked out on them. You know I can't hang. Let me put something on and I will call you right back. Do that, son. Bridget is over here and she's worried. Call me right back. I got you, Dad. Danny wasn't trying to freak out on the phone with his dad, but he'd woken up naked after all. As he got dressed, he tried to think if he'd done anything with the stripper. Not too sure what all happened last night, he walked to Brandon's room. No one was in the main room as he made it to the other bedroom. He pushed the door open, already partially opened. Brandon was lying in the bed, spooning with two females. Wake up, B. Wake up. What's good? Brandon yawned, peering at him. Nothing. Did you make sure Thomas made it home? You get him a cab, lift or something? No. That fool's still here somewhere. Unless he's sobered up after all that throwing up he did in the bathroom. You need to look in the kitchen. That's the last place I saw him. Brandon sat up in the bed, stretching. Damn, B. I thought you could handle the guests. I handled my guests. That's your man. I promise you, I think he did more than drink. For real? Danny closed the door completely and walked through the penthouse. He finally spotted Thomas lying on the cold tile floor of the kitchen. Danny tried to sit Thomas up, but he slid back down and hitting his face on the floor. He left him there and returned to his room to sit on his bed. He dialed his dad. The phone started ringing. Hello? Yeah, he's over here. I've never seen him this drunk. I tried to sit him up, but he's still dead weight right now. Tell Miss Bridget that I'll bring him home once he sobers up. Okay, son. Thanks. No problem. Danny ended the call. Thomas is there, but he wasted to the point of no return. Danny said he would bring him home once he sobers up, but he can't even stand him up right now. Thank God he's safe. I hope his wife doesn't kill him when he gets home. I must call her. Knowing her, she's going to flip. I can hear her now. Bridget affected an impression, pitching her voice. What's the address to where he's at? Don't tell me, Eric, because I don't want to know. Thanks for calling, Danny. Talk to you later. No problem. Eric opened the door to let Bridget out. She left, and he closed the door behind her. He texted Danny, and then he finally went upstairs. Eric, make sure you have that place cleaned up. I'm coming up there to watch football. See you around 1. Danny walked back into his room after he dragged Thomas to the couch. He'd almost thrown his back struggling with Thomas's weight. He sat on the edge of his bed, trying to remember what happened last night. He remembered that the showstopper ran down her prices for him. He reached into the drawer and pulled out his wallet, only to find every dollar gone. He groaned, got up, and headed to Brandon's room. B, come here for a second. Come here now, Danny yelled. Coming, yo. Calm down. Brandon had wrapped a towel around his waist as he opened the door. Danny was waiting outside the room, shaking his head with disgust. Where's the fire? Brandon asked. You got jokes, but all my money went. I had 10 $100 bills in my wallet when I placed it in my nightstand drawer. Now I got nothing. You need to call Fancy and get my money. I'll call her, but you sure you didn't pay for the girl's services? You serious? I told you, I don't get down like that. All she did was give me a massage, and I fell asleep. That's all I remember, and she offered that. I didn't request anything. You know I don't judge, but when she came out of the room to finish her last set, she left your room's door wide open, and you were butt naked, no socks or nothing. All I saw was butt cheeks and elbows. True story. Well, when I fell asleep, I know I had a towel around my waist. I wasn't that drunk. I know I didn't do anything. Plus, I know what I had in my wallet. I hear you. But before I call Fancy, let's make sure you didn't drop it or misplace it. Brandon walked into Danny's room. You check. I'm done. Danny followed Brandon, arms crossed. As Brandon started his search, Danny picked up his cell phone and read through his texts. He read the one from Yolanda and his dad. He texted his dad back first. Danny. Okay, Dad. See you when you get here. He hesitated to text Yolanda back. He couldn't think of the right words, especially after she'd addressed him as a king. He watched Brandon look around the room instead, meeting his gaze with a facial expression saying, "It's not here." Brandon looked in the drawer, reaching his hand inside. He pulled out a note and read it aloud. Dear Danny, I'm sorry that I pulled your towel off. I had to set the stage for the rest of the room that I put you to bed. Never leave your wallet in an open area in a hotel full of people. I put your money under the mattress. Thanks for letting me entertain you and your guest. Good luck with your marriage. Thanks again, Marcia. The showstopper. Brandon stared at Danny. Danny lifted the mattress and grabbed his money. He counted it, and it was all there. Brandon tossed the note at Danny and walked out of the room. He flopped onto the bed, still holding his money and his phone. Danny's phone rang in his hand. The name on his screen read, Yolanda. Good morning, baby. Good morning, love. You didn't get my text? I got it this morning. I was knocked out. I was trying to get Thomas together before I called you. Bridget went to the house bothering my dad about Thomas's whereabouts. I know he pissed, but that's a long story. How's my queen? I'm doing great. It was a long night. These fools call themselves throwing me a bachelorette party. You serious? That's crazy. Wow, he said, sounding happy. Why you say it like that? She replied, puzzled. Nah, it's funny because the same thing happened here. Brandon pulled some strings with these strippers and everything. She clucked her tongue. So, you were around strippers. Baby, you know I don't do strippers. So, relax. Did you not have strippers at yours? Yes, but nothing. That's our first and last bachelor and bachelorette party. It's over now. Let's focus on the wedding and spending our lives with each other. That's what I'm looking forward to. Me too. I can't wait. You just come back in one piece so that we can tie the knot. Will do, she laughed. They talked on the phone for an hour more, kissing their phones and saying how much they missed each other. Annulling Our Promise. Chapter 20. Danny walked back into the penthouse, only to hear a lot of screaming at the television. He thought to himself, the Giants must be losing. Son, bring that salmon dip out the refrigerator and those scoops off the counter. Eric yelled from the main room. Danny shook his head with a little smirk as he walked to the kitchen. He grabbed the items, then brought them to the main room. He placed them on the coffee table quickly, trying not to get in the way of anyone's view of the television. He went back into the kitchen and grabbed a beer. Danny stood there for a second, watching the game over their shoulders until he ultimately sat down next to Dee. What's good, nephew? Dee asked. Everything. I can't complain. I had the best time of my life last night. Now it's just getting through these last 2 weeks in one piece. This process is the real deal. I see why some people go to the justice of the peace to get married. I've been there twice, so you know I feel your pain. They say the wedding is for the bride and the honeymoon is for the groom. Once you make it through the wedding, cash in all your chips in on the honeymoon night. That might be the first and last night she'll do whatever you ask. You think. No, I know. You ever seen that movie? Groundhog Day with Bill Murray in it? I don't think so, but it sounds familiar. Well, anyway, it's a movie about this guy who keeps waking up at the same time every day. And when he wakes up, he must relive the same day over and over. I always secretly thought, if I had to live any day over and over, it would be my honeymoon, hands down. I could live the time we left the reception to the next morning over and over. Why that specific time frame? Or did it matter? Damn right it matters. The ceremony was special, and confessing our love to one another in front of witnesses was priceless. But when we left them, riding that loving commitment high, that still gives me chills. You almost yearn to be alone, to be intimate for the first time after being married. I don't know if that's how everybody felt when they got married, but I know I did. The whole time during the reception, I would catch myself looking at my wife, smiling in anticipation of how I'm going to love on her once we left. Wow. I love when I hear other people's experiences, especially when they're good, Danny said, before he drifted off with his thoughts about his wedding. Touchdown. I needed that on my football sheet. Now, nail this extra point for the overpoints to be good, Eric said as they lined up for a 2-point conversion. The Giants made the conversion, and Eric jumped up, clapping and cheering. Hell yeah! Danny paid him no mind. Eric looked at Dee, then looked back to Danny, who was in another world. It's tied up, son, Eric yelled at Danny. It is? Danny was surprised. He opened an eye to see the score, but a commercial was on. No. We down by 10 with a minute to play, and it's the 49ers ball. What are you thinking about? My bad, Dad. I got a lot on my mind with this wedding and everything. I get that, son. That reminds me. I have your wedding gift in your room. Let's get it now. This game is over. I thought this suite was your present. It is, but there's more. Danny walked to his room and Eric followed him. He grabbed the envelope that Eric had set on his bed when he'd first gotten there. Danny opened the envelope and started reading the documents. Page after page, he read them thoroughly. Eric couldn't understand his facial expressions as he read the documents. Are you sure, Dad? You want to give me the house in Georgia? Absolutely. Your mother and I planned our lives out way before you ever stepped into the world. We always said our first child would get our first home while we were still alive. Me and her planned to move to Florida or Hawaii. Eric swallowed, trying not to sound too emotional. We wanted to retire in a place where the weather is warm, year-round, and the beaches are beautiful. I've been thinking about this day ever since you told me you were considering marrying Yolanda. I was going to wait until the day of your wedding, but then I thought, if my lawyer could have all the paperwork signed and notarized, I could present it to you and your wife on your wedding day. Danny smiled softly, still staring at the papers in his hands. Thanks, Dad. Don't thank me, thank your mother. She might not be here physically, but her spirit lives with us every day. I'm just happy that I've been upholding to a lot of things that she put forward. In the midst of her death, her hands on this family were felt. What you mean by that? When your mother died, I didn't go back to work for a year. We had a $100,000 life insurance policy on both of us, which held me and you down that first year. I was so brokenhearted. It took me longer to pull it together than I'd thought. Words can't even express how thankful I am that she suggested that we got those policies. But at the time, I was skeptical. Us being in our 20s at the time, I just knew death was a long way from us. We could have placed that money into a retirement saving, but like most of the time, I still sided with her, knowing that she had an old spirit, like a mother's intuition, you know. Then your Mama May deposited a check for $300,000 in my account. Wow, exactly. Your mother had another policy that she was paying, but it was in your Mama May's name. I used that money to pay off the house in Georgia, which is just one of my rental properties. You can do whatever you want with the house. It's yours. The tenants are moving out on the 28th of December. If you want to use the same property management company, let me know. Just sign all the places that are blank and let me complete one of the promises I made to your mother. Danny walked out of the room with the paperwork, coming back with a pen. He signed the paperwork, put it back in the envelope, and passed it to Eric. Eric took the envelope, and a feeling of joy shot through his body. Are you okay? I couldn't be better, son. Give me a moment, and I'll be back in there to watch the next game. Danny nodded as he left the room. Eric looked at the envelope in his hands, and then he dropped his head into his hand. The envelope was pressed to his forehead. He took a deep breath as his eyes got watery, then he exhaled. Eric got up, hit the light switch off, and walked back in the main room, feeling like a heavy weight had been released from his shoulders.